This is the section on what to do actually during the meal. Some specifics. I will try to find some visuals for you. However, I want you to really consider the things I'm saying beyond this, the theory, the concepts. And I think that you're going to be able to take this a little bit deeper into who you are and make this a part of your identity than a rule to follow. Make sure that you always treat the waitstaff with respect and kindness. Simple, but not everybody does it, surprisingly. Wait till the women and children order first, of course. In fact, if the waiter looks at me what I want, I always redirect the waiter's gaze and attention to the female or the children. This one is usually subconscious, but it happens sometimes. I've even seen it in movies. Never lift the menu off the table. The menu should always be touching the table. And I don't mean flat on the table, but it could be the bottom corner, it can be the side, so on. But make sure it's touching the table and not up in front of you or just wave it around like a child might. Also, you may want to make sure that everybody knows what they want before you order. If the waiter comes up and says, "What would you like?" check with the table and make sure everybody is ready. I try to order for women and children if I know what they want first, because it's a sign of class, depending on the woman, who, if they like their traditional values and understand class and demeanor and etiquette, it's usually a good thing, especially if it's a loved one, such as a girlfriend, fiance, wife, whatever. It's a sign of respect to them, ladies first. When it comes to ordering things on the menu, make sure that you don't order the most expensive things. Try to find out what's relative to the party. Maybe even check what other people are looking at and what they're interested in before you go ahead and order the most expensive thing or even high-end thing. If the host prays, you pray. It doesn't matter if you're religious or not. One of the best things that I've found to do at large sections of my life where I had no religious beliefs whatsoever, I basically just closed with an amen. I found that to be the most simple, respectful way and didn't go against my personal beliefs, but respected them and their beliefs. A lot of people who are alcoholics will always be like, "Oh, come on, have a drink." They want to let loose. They want to bring you into their world. But that's rude. You don't want to push anybody to coerce into a poison that will probably ruin your life at some point. And drinking, as much as I love it, isn't always a good idea, especially if you need to be extremely classy and proud. Drinking may loosen you up a little, but it also can cause you to make mistakes in your demeanor. So I personally don't drink when it matters, when it's a dining that has people that are more powerful than me that I need to keep myself in check. And I don't think you should either. If you do spill, it's embarrassing, but it happens. Everybody's spilled at some point. Just apologize. Do your best to pick up the initial thing, but eventually, usually the host or the service will come by and start to pick it up, and then back off and give them the space to do that. You may even need to excuse yourself to make sure that you don't have anything on yourself and clean up your own body or double check it. Then you can return and make sure. And by then, it's probably taken care of to the best of the ability at the moment. I tend to go counterclockwise in my brain. However, it is taught that you should always pass items counterclockwise. So if you were to say, believe in the rule, always pass things around counterclockwise. This one is a pet peeve of mine. I actually stand behind this fully. Do not season your food until after you've tasted it. It's extremely rude to the chef. If you season the food before you taste it, it signifies that you don't trust the chef to make it to your liking. They present and create the food to its best ability, to what they have found to be correct. And if you like it a little bit sweeter than that salt, or a little bit spicier, to give it a little more punch, then you add that pepper. Don't do that unless you've taken the first bite. Now, when we think about the rules of actual holding the forks and knives, there are two concepts. The fork should go on the left, and the knife should be on the right. I look at it as the knife in the right is something that I need more skill with. It's going to be sharper, it's more dangerous, so it's going to go in my dominant hand. And the fork in the left, because it's more of a placeholder and a grip, where I don't need the dexterity that I would. Now, when we want to dine, there's a few ways to look at it, but the American way is you cut with the right and then you switch and you eat with the fork in the right hand. And there's, I believe it's called continental or conservative or classic way. This is when you keep it in each hand and you put down the knife and eat with the left. I found that to be a little cumbersome. I was always a fan of the way where you change hands. It's annoying, yes, but it feels right. And it does slow me down. So I usually just do that. In addition to that, the concept of cutting every bite, do you take one cut and then eat that cut? Or do you cut up everything? I was under the impression and taught that you only do one cut at a time. It keeps the food warmer. It keeps the juices in the meats and the beefs and so on, as well as your plate doesn't look like the child's plate. You're an adult, you can take care of every single bite, and it will slow you down so you're not a ravenous monster trying to eat the food and make it as accessible as possible. So I've always been taught through dining with my family, as well as the houses that I've dined at, that you want to only cut off one bite at a time using a napkin. Now, I have a beard, so I started to use this rule of sorts, very importantly, because I would always have things on myself. It became kind of an obsession, but it should be already. I wish I already had this built into me. Not having a little bit of food on your mouth, which is instantly distasteful to anybody looking at you. You're talking and there's like a chunk of mayonnaise or something on your mouth. It's not very appealing. And in fact, that is something, if you think about it, could be taken against you later on. Somebody could be talking about it as a gossip type trash talking. Did you see that thing on his mouth all night? Can be a total turnoff for anybody on a date as well. When you put a napkin on your lap, you want to make sure that your fold is away from you and that this can prevent any unsightly stains on your lap as well as visually. So you want to keep that napkin in a sense that you can always utilize it, and when you bring it up to your mouth to get anything above the table, that it isn't covered in stains. As well, when you are done, you'll be able to fold it, and you always want to put that to the left. Do not put it on the plate, even when you're done. Put it to the left of the plate and just kind of hug it right to the side. Don't crunch it up, fold it the best you can, and make sure you can do your best to not have stains visible on the table. When you are, a little thing is when you are squeezing lemon, make sure that you like kind of put a shield around it and squeeze, considering that often lemons and limes shoot out juice. So you want to make sure you don't get that anywhere, or anything of that matter, such as lobster or so on. When eating soup, you want to think about that again in that demeanor where it's not as important. You don't need it. You're not a ravenous animal, and you can scoop away from you. You do not scoop towards yourself like a beast. You scoop away, and then you bring to your mouth, scoop away. That is how you want to eat the soup. If there is a seed, an unwanted item that you did not want to eat, you always want to push that to the top left of your plate, like back far away from your dominant hand. Never lick your knife. I guess I have seen this, and I think I've done it at home. You don't want to do that in front of other people. Some people like to say that never take the bread basket without offering it to your neighbor first before you serve yourself a roll. Make sure you chew well, as I've mentioned. You don't have to do it 32 times, but make sure you chew well in the sense here that you're chewing to taste, to enjoy, not to eat. And this is a very important part, that you're there to dine and enjoy something really nice most of the time. So you don't want to just stuff your face and chew it. Taste it. When you are taking the bites and you are cutting off the pieces, make sure they are bite size. Do not shove a giant piece of steak in your mouth and have it take a minute to actually chew to be able to swallow it. In fact, if somebody talks to you while you're eating, you don't want to have them wait for this giant mouthful of food for you to finish before you can answer, because we never really want to talk with our mouth full anyways. So this is a key element, not to take a big bite. So you've waited to sit down, you've done all these other things, and your platter gets served in front of you or have been served, and not everybody has their food or has started. You're always going to wait until the host takes their first bite. Yes, it can be difficult. Yes, the food's gonna look and smell great. Might even be getting cold if the host is way far behind. Doesn't matter. You're gonna eat the cold food if the host hasn't started. And that's on the host, and that's something that you can choose not to go back or dine with this host again. That is on them. But you follow the rules, you do it right. Always wait for the host for the first bite. What do you do, though, if they say, go ahead and eat, just start without me? I personally say, no, I don't do that. That's just how I've been taught. Nope, I will not start without you. Get your shit together as a host, but that's not how I do things. I do things right. And this is how it's done. Now, mind your feet. Just because they're below the table and people don't see them, they can feel them. You don't want to be shaking your knee on the ball of your foot. You don't want to have your foot on the legs of the table. You don't want to be kicking people by accident. Keep them on the ground. Keep them in front of you. You can cross them, but cross them in the sense where your ankles wouldn't go above, say, halfway through your shin, if that's something that you need to do. For comfort, I can understand that if the table is tight. It's just a way that you want to keep your space below the table. Now, when we talk about breads and drinks, the order is bread on the left, so that your hand makes a B, and then drinks on the right, your hand makes a D. Always keep that in that place, as well as make sure that when you are drinking, you want to take small sips, and you don't want to be chewing like crazy. And for the bread, just like the way I've been raised to cut this foods as well, is piece by piece. You take a piece of bread and butter the piece of bread, not the whole piece of bread, just the piece that you took, and eat that. Then you take another piece of your bread, butter that, and then go on. So again, it's about incrementally chewing away at your meal. When drinking at all from the table, make sure that you bring the cup to you, to your mouth. Do not lean towards the cup. Extremely rude, doesn't look that great. Keep your status, keep your posture. Also, make sure you don't chew on the ice. That's also a kind of an annoying sound and ugly thing to be crunching on ice. When you do drink, make sure it's small sips. Don't guzzle that like you're on a hiking trip and haven't drank for an hour. It's just keep it classy. Like I said before, make sure you finish swallowing and chewing before you speak. It's about those small bites. When there is a serving spoon, tongs, fork, knife, whatever, always use those instead of your own. Keep your own stuff to yourself. Keep everything else separate. We don't share things like that, at least here in the States or English type dining. And if anybody wants you to pass the salt and pepper, always pass both at the same time.